force. Drops of either sweat or tears flowed down the guy's face. In front of him he saw two opponents who were shouting to each other where to move. With fear, the guy lay and did not move. The stranger took out his sword. He firmly held the hilt of the sword. With 2 swings, he finished with these warriors. A fighter has always wanted to be strong. At this time, the stranger went to the guy, so that no matter who he meets on his way, he can fight with dignity. Gu Chongmyung was the elder of the Huangshan mountain clan, a supreme martial artist who represents strength. Faced with him, the guy could not survive. All exhausted, he looked at the elder with all the hatred. The fighter came to the Demon Academy to become stronger. He faced difficulties, again and again, for many years. The guy was on the verge of death. He could not resist the clan elder. The warrior thought about how unfair it was. He doesn't want to die. If only he knew more powerful martial arts. If only the situation had worked out a little better. The guy asked himself the question, is he really going to die now? He even imagined something similar. A status window appeared in front of him, which gave him a choice. From resume, he switched to continue from saved point, but realized that this was not what he needed. At the end, the screen said, "You have selected restart." As he passed out, he closed his eyes and thought. The warrior did not want to die, he wanted to live. What were the words before him, and what did they offer him? He had no idea then. It was written on the screen that he would return to the moment before a personal meeting with the Lord of the Supreme Court. The guy was floating on the surface of a seemingly endless ocean. His name was Coy. In order to learn demonic arts, which are known to shorten a person's lifespan, he entered the Demon Academy, but he did not learn any demonic arts. For many years, the guy did nothing but go to search parties and reconnaissance. And then he died. He realized that his life really was complete crap. The guy closed his eyes. The warrior woke up with his head pounding. Opening his eyes slightly, he saw a familiar ceiling. It suddenly dawned on him that he was lying in some kind of bed. Coy didn't know what was happening. For a moment, he froze in horror. The warrior jumped out of bed. He wondered if he really woke up here. His old training center. The guy tried to understand what happened. He remembered his last moments of life. Coy was sure he was dead. Was he in a dream? But it was so real. The warrior remembered that bastard Mantis, the Lord of the Supreme Court. It was because of him that he died. He gave an order that killed the commander and his squad. The guy thought about how this happened. He heard footsteps behind him. One of the men asked if the squad leader was stuck there. The warrior turned to them. Juk Myung standing in front of him. His partner moved closer to Coy. Standing in front of him was a representative of the Supreme Court, a member of the Black Moon Squad, Chik-san. The guy didn't know at all what they wanted from him. Without waiting for an answer, the man punched him in the solar plexus. Coy screamed in pain. He flew a couple of meters away, unable to resist. Chik-san asked for forgiveness and said that his hand simply slipped. He asked the flying faction squad leader if Coy was still half asleep. The man said that in front of him is now the captain of the Black Moon Squad, Juk Myung. This situation. The guy was breathing heavily. Instead of the guy feeling pain in his stomach, he was more shocked by what was happening. I remembered the words of this man as if in another life. He still asked him if he was half asleep and said that in front of him was the captain of the detachment, Juk Myung. Coy has definitely lived through this situation before. If he's right, then the next thing he'll say is that if he lacks skill, then he should. Indeed, at that very second the man said that if he lacks skill, then he should at least be able to bow his head. The guy was terrified. The captain of the squad approached him. He asked what kind of arrogant idiot he was. Coy responded by asking what was the matter. The man said that the Lord of the Supreme Court was calling him. The guy looked at him defiantly. Juk Myung had already turned to leave. But he stopped abruptly and said that he would give him advice. The captain of the squad said that he was very lucky. Coy looked at him questioningly. They left, but Chik-san still laughed at him. The guy thought that this bastard only went so far because Juk Myung was covering his back, even though he was lower in rank. He hoped that at least once he would be caught. Then he will kill him. That's it, but... Some inscriptions appeared above the heads of the men. Above Juk Myung, 2 lives, and above Jik-san, 1 life. Coy asked himself what was going on over their heads. As he took a step, he became more and more lost in thought. He had goosebumps. He couldn't believe what had happened. All repeats. The guy didn't know what happened at all. Was he having a dream? Foresight? No, this was definitely reality. The warrior stopped in front of the door and said that he was the commander of the flying faction squad. The warrior stopped in front of the door and said that he was the commander of the flying faction squad. He went back in time. That's right. The one who planned his death was sitting in front of him. Lord of the Supreme Court, Mantis. It's all because of him. The guy introduced himself again and said that he had arrived to receive an order from the leader of the Supreme Court. As expected, everything was as he remembered. The current head of the Holy Deity's Court was also here. There is a place called the Red Demon Chamber. This is the main branch of the Demon Academy, with 5 courtyards inside. Their leaders not only have incredible martial arts skills, but also wield demonic flames. This is a demonic art that can melt a person to the bone in one flash. Because of his terrible character, he thoughtlessly killed everyone he didn't like. Although he is not someone Coy could trust, he has no choice but to obey him. The Lord of the Supreme Court told his interlocutor that he mentioned earlier that this child is Coy. The man, sipping his tea, replied that it seemed that he was as strong as his mantis said. The head of the Holy Deity's Court continued with regards to his greetings. It seemed to him that the warrior simply tilted his head half seriously. Coy fell to the floor and started shouting to be forgiven for his insolence. He should have greeted Mr. Leader of the Supreme Court as soon as he entered. Mantis laughed and, turning to the head of the court of the Holy Deity, asked him not to go so far. If he scolds others, as during an interrogation, then next time, let him not put him in such an awkward position. The warrior said that he did not know how to behave in front of the leader of the Holy Deity's Court. But he thought that this was just funny. Just 4 days ago, the Lord of the Supreme Court ordered him to greet himself in this way, simply by bowing his head. The man ordered him to stand up. The guy thought that this cunning old fox was amusing himself. The Lord grinned and drank tea. He asked Coy if he had any thoughts about becoming an employee in Chongil. The warrior knew that if it was Cheonil, then he was hiding his true face. Mantis continued, saying that since the guy showed such an interest in the demonic arts, he took extra measures. He was luring him. Chongil. A place where thousands of secret books are stored. The Lord grinned and said that, however, on the other hand, he thought about giving him another task that would be better suited to a warrior. Coy remembered all the guys he had killed and how he himself could barely stand on his feet. He will simply tell him to go to the Huangshan Mountain Clan outpost and only take a knife. This could be a chance given to me by heaven. Coy will beat around the bush to avoid the quest. He won't die again. The warrior began to say that he wanted to say something. Suddenly, he screamed. Before him appeared the choice of what to say to the Lord. The guy looked at this window and could not believe, but that she had appeared again. He couldn't even move his body. Everything around became gray. Mantis froze, pouring tea. The leader of the holy deity's court, without moving, looked greedily at the tea. Time stopped. Coy was sure that this was not a dream. He died once and then returned to the past. Something flashed on the screen. The guy wondered what these numbers were. 6, 5. The number decreased. Finally, the warrior realized that it was time. It forces him to choose. He only knows one thing. That the time for choosing is almost over. Stopping at, "I will cut off my right hand," he realized that he could not do this, because he would die following Mantis' orders. Coy chose to receive another order. He told the Lord that he wished to receive another order. Coy himself did not understand how he got it out. Mantis looked at him in shock. The head of the court also did not expect such words from him. The warrior quickly covered his mouth with his hand so as not to stir up anything else. The guy looked into space and asked himself what he just said. His hand was shaking. He just said it, "I don't understand." The Lord stood up and told him that he had not yet given him any orders. The man took a step towards the warrior. He said it was an abomination. How dare he ask for another order? The entire room was engulfed in flames. The boy screamed in sudden pain. He didn't know what it was strong thirst for blood. He had only heard of the demonic flame. It's like they bite him on the neck. Coy realized that he was in big trouble. Mantis's eyes sparkled with anger. If everything stays like this, then Coy. The man was ready to kill the boy. Something strange began to happen to Coy. It was as if his gaze was eating him into pieces. The Lord began to shout that enough was enough. In the moment, the blade, which was already in front of Coy's neck, froze. In front of the guy stood an assassin who had huge blades on his hands. The guy was confused. How long has this girl been here? He realized that if the Lord had spoken a little later, he would have lost his head. Coy grabbed his throat and scratched it in horror. He didn't even have time to react. He would realize everything only after he said goodbye to his head. An assassin girl stood in front of the guy. This is a vassal guarding the Lord of the Supreme Court, Hyuk-bai. The bishop said that now he would listen to the guy. After that, he will decide whether to kill him or spare him. He will decide after explanations. Coy stared at the Lord in horror. The guy immediately bowed down before him and asked him not to misunderstand him. When he asked for a different order, it was not because he wanted to choose the order himself. The Lord looked at him in surprise. What interested him then? The guy said that recently there have been rumors that the Huangshan mountain clan is gathering at the Hanama border. The guy continued to talk and proved to the Lord that an attack was being prepared. Mantis. In the end, he will spare the guy if everything goes according to his plan. Getting rid of the Huangshan mountain clan warriors is their sacred duty. At this time, the man only asked what the guy wanted. Coy said he wants to take advantage of this opportunity. The Flying Assassin Squad specializes in reconnaissance and surveillance. He continued to say that if only he was informed about the dates of the professor's expedition, then he will be able to join her with complete readiness. Vladika scratched his beard and thought. Coy looked at the Lord and only thought that he would approve this order. At this time, the head of the court of the holy deity only laughed as he continued to drink. Apparently, there was a leak of information from the Heavenly Falcon courtyard to the core. How would a simple commander know about the rumors? Mantis tensed. He turned his head towards Coy and continued to scratch his beard. The guy continued to sit on his knees and look, now at the head of the court, now at the ruler. The bishop finally said that everything was turning out funny. He was going to entrust him with something anyway. The deputy director will personally go to the place that the guy mentioned to investigate, but they must ask someone to explore that place. If he goes, the guy must find out what kind of people are there and what the land looks like. We need to inspect everything and pass on the information to the captain of the flying assassins. Coy shouted, saying that he would follow the Lord's orders. The man, turning his head to the side, said that the guy could go. Coy stood up and sighed heavily. He was able to survive. The captain of the flying assassins seemed to be looking into the guy's soul as he stood up. Then, when the guy left, she still looked after him. He felt her gaze on him. Again. The timer has started in which he must choose something. The guy turned around. The girl now looked at the guy with even greater caution. 4 lives were written above her head. Evening. Coy went outside to the lake. He washed his face and couldn't stop thinking about that choice. What happened then? It's simply incredible, but he has to believe it. The guy looked into the reflection and realized that this was all reality. Above his head hung the inscription, Coin 1. Last chance. On instructions from the bishop, the guy set off on his journey. He remembered what His Majesty asked. He needed to find out about the people who live there, what the land looks like. He needs to inspect everything and pass on information. Coy walked and thought that Mantis was just a shameless bastard, because after such an order no one returned. He was killed mercilessly, there was nowhere to go. The guy stopped and exhaled, laughing a little. Maybe we should just run to Young One. He decided that this was not an option either. It won't be easy. Looking into the distance, he realized that he had at least learned the demonic arts. Looking at his hands, he felt all the unpleasant and evil energy that passed through him. He literally cannot hide it no matter what he does. The guy is sure that the warriors of the right wing of Murim simply cannot help but feel the evil energy. They will pursue him until he dies in agony. The guy continued walking. In the end, even if he does one thing and another, death is inevitable. This time, Coy's thoughts were suddenly interrupted by someone sitting on the path. Chick-san, who noticed that most likely the guy received an important order. He did a lot of things in the bishop's office, and he should have been more careful. The guy looked over and said that he was just talking to himself and didn't think Coy could hear everything. At this time, Coy looked at the constant offender without emotion. Chick-san had only 1 life left. The guy froze and was lost in thought, while leaves flew around him. Coy thought about the conversation in the office of the Lord of the Supreme Court. He must choose. Follow his orders, or die. Or. The guy remembered his sword. Coy asked. Chick-san looked at him. He was a little surprised that the guy was telling him anything at all. The guy, looking at the floor, said that he would like to confirm something. There's already a little. Chick-san was scared. He asked what he wanted to check. At this time, Coy began to walk towards him. He looked at the offender without emotion. He was terrifying with his gloomy expression. Chick-san was terrified. Coy began to run towards him, picking up his katana. Chick-san jumped up in bewilderment and also began to take his sword out of his holster. He didn't have time to get it completely, but he managed to put a block. Chick-san asked what he was doing. The battle has begun. The guy hit the offender's sword once. Then a second time. He could barely hold his sword. And then came the third blow, which threw the sword to the side. After that, Coy rushed past. Chick-san stopped. With a slight movement of his hand, he cut the guy's leg. Immediately Coy began the interrogation. He repeated Chick-san's words that Coy had done wrong in the office of the Lord of the Supreme Court. The guy swung again and screamed. He did this to get some answers. He wanted to become stronger, but it didn't work out for him. The guy looked at the offender with gloomy eyes. Once again the battle began, with Coy dominating and winning. This is all the 3-second rule, Black Demon's 7 swords. Chick-san couldn't cope with the number of blows. Coy stopped. At that time, Chick-san exhaled. He said Coy is crazy. Does he really think he's safe now? The guy looked at Chick-san with an even more furious look. He didn't care anymore. He began to run towards the thug, preparing another series of blows. The guys met with blades and looked into each other's soul. Coy thought that he had done everything he could to end up here. There is no way back. He must find a way out, and he will never die again. Chick-san delivered a powerful blow, swinging his big sword. Coy was able to dodge it. Suddenly the guy twisted around. He was getting ready to strike. Coy kicked his opponent in the stomach. From a strong kick, Chick-san felt extreme pain. He immediately grabbed his stomach and stood motionless. Coy stared at Chick-san. These words floating above the enemy's head can be a way to survive. The guy resolutely began to move his legs. The guy was sure it was him. Coy took a stance and continued to instill fear in the enemy. They raised their swords and were ready to fight, but Chick-san was already at his limit. While Coy wasn't even tired. The guy began to tremble and talk about how, if Captain Juk-myung finds out about this, then. A crow was sitting on a branch. She bowed her head a little and watched everything. At this time, Coy ran. Screams could be heard throughout the area. Chick-sana, and blood poured down the sides. The guy pierced his opponent with a blade. Immediately, a ton of blood gushed out of his mouth. Chick-sana. Without any regret, Coy stared at the floor. Then the sword fell to the ground. And behind him is his owner. Coy stood over the man's corpse with a bloodied sword. The guy killed him. The man who always bullied him. Body. Chick-sana lay on the floor and did not move. The guy realized that there was no turning back. It continued to get dark. But the sunset was truly beautiful. Suddenly, an object fell into the water and splashed from it. A corpse descended to the bottom of the river. Chick-sana. Coy watched as the lifeless body of his offender drowned. Finally, one less problem. The guy continued to stand and think. As soon as he killed Chick-sana, the words above his head disappeared. But nothing has changed about him. Until Coy saw himself reflected on the surface of the river. The words about 1 coin and last chance were still visible in front of him. He looked at his reflection in bewilderment. But then the information changed. Above the guy hung the inscription, 2 coins. Second chance. Actions are postponed until some time later. The boat sailed along the river under the moonlight. Coy was sitting on board with other soldiers. Strong tornadoes and steep cliffs, this was exactly what their road was like. This is the best place to move unnoticed. And again the guy remembered the words about the task and the bishop's order itself. After all, he came here. Coy clenched his fist tightly. If he had stayed at the academy, Juk-myung would have killed him anyway. The detachment swam to the shore. One by one, they began to get out of the boat. The boy then turned his gaze downward. The inscription was still above it. She appeared above his head after he killed Chick-san, but he still hasn't figured it all out. Suddenly, someone started screaming, "Look here!" The boy's gaze changed direction. The captain of the flying assassin squad, Cheol Soo-jin, addressed the squad leader. Seol-Y bowed before her. The girl said that since there are groups of the Huangshan Mountain clan in this area, they should not act carelessly. She said that he only needed to determine the number of enemies and inspect the area, and then return back. Cheol Soo-jin said not to hesitate and move forward. Seol-Y told his squad to follow him. All the guys immediately ran away. The girl remained standing in place and just silently looked after them. Seol-Y led the team. They all ran very fast. The guy ran and thought that he had not had the opportunity to think about it until now, but now that he began to think about it, it is a little puzzling. Seol-Y either simply received an order from Mantis, or he is now at one with him. He abruptly told his squad that they were going to the right. They started to say something to him, but the guy didn't hear any more. He said they needed to get down, and quickly. The squad looked at each other in bewilderment and asked if they shouldn't have gone left. The girl asked why the commander was doing this. They continued to run without stopping. In the past, soldiers from the Huangshan Mountain clan attacked them. It was as if they were waiting for them at their destination. This time he won't let them corner the squad and kill them. Seol-Y didn't enroll in the academy just to have it end so badly. The same inscription hung above his head. 2 coins. Does this mean he has a second chance? Or maybe this means that this is also his last chance. The guy suddenly noticed something. He stopped and ordered the squad to also stand still. They saw the house. The guys immediately began asking the commander what he was planning. They asked if it was possible that someone had seen them. The guy suddenly looked down. At such a moment, squad members may doubt him, because they missed the designated point. Seol-Y said that he would go and check, and if they heard the sound, they should go to him immediately. The guy gradually began to move away from his people. This building is most likely an observation post. If there is an ordinary soldier there, then he will be able to defeat him without any problems. But if this is a sword master with enormous energy, most likely, he will simply die. The guy looked inside in the hope that no one would be there. He was perplexed by what he saw. And now the whole squad is standing at the house. So, there was no one there. Seol-Y thought about it. The guy looked down and didn't know what to do. He probably needs to call for reinforcements, but going back to the academy is a little stupid after he killed Chick-sana. The girl asked her friend in a whisper if he thought the commander was behaving strangely. The guy said she was right, so something happened. The guy kept telling the commander that they might be back soon, so they needed to quickly inspect the area and report back. Then he started calling for the commander. Then the guy paused for a while and called the commander again. Seol-Y realized that he could not answer anything. When asked by a member of his squad again, the only thing he could do. This is the choice that appeared before him again. Looking at the first question, the guy froze in shock. What do you mean, let's fight? How? When will the enemy come? Now he cannot hear or see them, or even feel their presence. Seol-Y understood that time was running out, which meant he had to make his choice. He wondered. Is there really an enemy here? But if these are those whom he cannot feel at all, then they still will not survive. The guy decided to choose a different line, namely the negotiation method. The squad member kept asking and calling for Commander Seol-Y. The guy suddenly yelled for those who were hiding to come out right now. Immediately the entire squad tensed and stood in a stance. There was silence around. The branch didn't even move. Coy breathed a sigh of relief. Of course, it makes sense how they could end up here. At that moment, a silhouette landed between them. He said that the commander is a pretty capable guy. Everyone turned around in bewilderment and prepared their swords. The guy only asked one question. How? He is a supreme martial artist who represents strength. The greatest swordsman who carries the plum blossom sword. Standing in front of them was the Huangshan Mountain clan elder, Gu Chongmyung. The old man looked at the Coy squad with furious eyes. Apparently, they recognized him. Demon Academy's most dangerous enemy number 1. Gu Yongmyung. Coy was terrified. Why is he here? They continued south after arriving at the middle gate. They went so far as to enter a place that had nothing to do with their orders. The boy, horrified, asked how he knew they were here. The man said that he did not understand what the young man was talking about. Aren't you the ones who broke into my patrol area? The boy looked at him in bewilderment. Patrol zone? Then it is clear what it is. The man said that he would not hesitate any longer. He doesn't know why they're here, but all the bastards from the Demon Academy. At this moment, he began to draw his sword. Coy looked at him in horror. He said they would all die by his hands. The Coy squad became very tense. Each of them understood that battle could not be avoided. Coy began to think about what he should have guessed. In this life everything will be the same. He will simply die, no matter sooner or later. The result is the same in any case. But the guy still had a little hope. Although his life was not eventful. But he hoped for something more. The entire squad stood and waited for the commander's instructions or Gu Chongmyung's actions. The guy decided that he did not want to die. He began shouting to the squad to retreat. From such an order, the detachment fell into a stupor. Each of them quickly prepared themselves and turned around. They ran away while Gu Yongmyung stood there smiling. He watched as each member of the squad ran away after the leader. Gu Zhongmyung definitely did not expect such actions on their part. To some extent, he was upset. He called after them that it was too slow. After these words, a hail of swings of the sword rained down. Coy also received a sword in the back. The boy started spitting blood. The old man massacred every member of the squad and stood behind Coy. His eyes were red. He was furious. The old man swung his sword for the last time. The guy fell to the ground. Gu Zhongmyung walked to him and said that they were all weak. It's not surprising, because the one whom the squad called the commander is in fact an ordinary idiot. The old man stood over the guy and asked what he wanted to say. Coy looked at him and barely uttered words. He asked if he knew about their coming. Gu Yongmyung asked what he meant. The guy said that he knew for sure that they were coming, otherwise there would be no point in it. The old man still didn't understand what was going on. He asked for more details. He grabbed the guy by the hair and lifted his head. A gloomy face looked into Coy's soul. Gu Yongmyung asked how he knew about this. He continued to hold the guy by the hair and ask how he knew this information. A thought appeared in Coy's head. The old man knew not only the day, but also the time when they would come. He couldn't have set up the ambush if he didn't know. Gu Zhongmyung said that he will tell him since the guy already knows. He said that some people win by becoming more skilled, and others by killing fools along the way. The old man looked at the guy and said that he actually liked him. A demonic cultivator protesting against his superiors. Coy clenched his teeth tightly. He didn't understand what Gu Zhongmyung was talking about. Tears began to roll down the boy's face. Gu Chongmyung was surprised by this, and Coy looked at him with eyes full of resentment and anger. The guy who is capable of wielding the notorious demonic energy is crying? The old man let him go and thanked him. Now he can improve his skills. Gu Yongmyung said that Coy should die now. He swung his sword. Commander of a squad of flying assassins. The guy began to look pitifully at the old man. He said it was unfair to die like this. At this time, the sword was rushing towards him at full speed. The guy asked to give him one more chance. He started repeating and shouting about it, but Gu Jongmyung swung his sword and struck the final blow. And again there is emptiness. A menu popped up in front of Coy saying he had another chance. The report has begun. The guy just opened his eyes and tried to understand what was happening. Then he realized. He just can't start over. There's no way to be sure it won't happen again if he just comes back. The guy decided to load the save location, but the save slots were empty. He was told that in this case the previous window would be loaded. Coy didn't understand what all this meant. He's running out of time. The guy chose the continue option. To his surprise, the system generated an error again. This item cannot be fulfilled. Then a note appeared that said that if the opponent's martial arts level was higher than his, or the scenario could not be continued through conversation, then he simply would not be able to continue. Information about the Huangshan Mountain Clan elder, Gu Chongmyung, came to light. His statistics consist of 6 types. Plum Blossom Mets, 54 million damage. This line was enough to make Coy fall into horror. Then his statistics appeared. His statistics were the Demon Divine Sword, which had 1002 damage, and the Black Demon 7 Swords, which had 1524 damage. The guy was perplexed by such a difference in damage. The notification said the enemy was too strong. You can't load an extreme save, so there's no other way out. And again the guy jumped out of bed. He returned to the moment before the meeting with the Lord of the Supreme Court. Coy started laughing hysterically. The guy hoped that last time he was just unlucky. If only there was a way to survive. Coy looked down heavily. He couldn't leave things as they were. If the guy had stayed here, they would have come for him soon. The guy heard footsteps and raised his head. He entered the room. Chik-sun and Juk-myung. Chik-san stood in perplexity. He was sure that Coy was there. While they were trying to figure out where the guy was, he was watching them. The words above Chik-san disappeared. Maybe it's because he already killed him. This may mean that he can only take one person's life once. If this is true, then he only has one life left. Coy decided that he should become stronger. Much stronger. The guy must solve his problems with the main dangers. And survive. Coy clenched his hand tightly into a fist. Whatever it takes, he can overcome it. The guy ran out into the street. He decided to take a little break. Then, out of his peripheral vision, he noticed something. The mirror showed Coy and the words above it. 1 coin. The guy sighed heavily. He didn't know what to do. The enemy was literally on every corner. He must fight enemies that he cannot help but defeat, cannot avoid. The guy sank in realization. We need to find a way out. Coy then looked up confidently. The guy came up with something and immediately decided to do it. Coy ran to the palace. He introduced himself to Mantis as the commander of the Flying Assassin Squad, Coy. He arrived to receive an order from the leader of the High Court. Coy bowed before them. The bishop looked at him in bewilderment. Since it all started with that status window, there must be some kind of clue there. Coy decided that he would not run away. Mantis turned to the head of the holy deity's court and said that he had mentioned this child before. This is Coy. The man smiled and said that he seemed like a good child. The guy was surprised. This situation was different from the previous one. Because he bowed first, the bishop did not scold him. The man asked if the guy was thinking about becoming an employee in Chang'il. Coy lowered his head down. The man said the same thing as in the past. The guy decided to force the words out of himself. He leaned down again and began to speak. How dare someone like him covet such a valuable place? He doesn't deserve it. The rulers were very surprised looking at the guy. The man accepted it. He is still thinking about giving him the task. At this moment, Coy turned to him. The guy said that he had something important to tell him. Coy's pupils constricted in shock. He had been waiting for this for a very long time. Words appeared in front of him about any order that the guy could carry out. Previously, he simply could not choose it. Everything around was frozen. Only Coy continued to look at this window in bewilderment. He already knows that the first and second options will lead to death, which means there is only one thing left. Coy told the Lord that he would cut off his right hand. He understood that at the moment there was nothing better. If it doesn't work, then so be it. Mantis looked at him and did not understand. Why did he decide to do this so suddenly? The boy thought to himself that if he couldn't escape fate, he would rather do it with his own hands. Coy told the Lord that he was looking after him. And he dared to attempt top-level martial arts. Moreover, there was a time when he rummaged through the ruler's things without a shadow of fear. That's what he thought. Mantis was at a loss for words. The guy bowed again and began shouting that even if he died many times, he would not be able to atone for his sins. He wants to prove his loyalty to the Lord of the Supreme Court. The head of the holy deity's court said that Coy was much funnier than he thought. Vladika knocked on the table. They threw a dagger at the guy, with which he was supposed to cut off his hand. He raised his head in bewilderment. With fury in his eyes, the Lord looked at Coy. He ordered him to do what he had to do. The guy reached for the dagger. Only once does he have to do this. Holding the dagger to his hand, he decided that once he got through this, he could find a way out. The guy started cutting his hand. His face was writhing in pain. There was a lot of blood flowing onto the floor. Coy continued to cut his hand and just screamed. The guy was in so much pain that he started screaming loudly. The bishop ordered him to stop. The guy disobeyed him and continued to do what he said, but suddenly the dagger flew out of his hands. Coy opened his eyes wide in bewilderment. Standing in front of him was the captain of the flying assassins. It was she who knocked the dagger out of the hands of the guy who was lying behind him. The guy stared at her. Did she really stop him from cutting off his hand? Grabbing his shoulder, he realized that he could do it. The girl had 4 lives above her head. Coy was writhing in pain. Although he did not cut off his hand, he could not move it. The ruler pointed his finger at the guy to the head of the court of the holy deity and said that it turned out funny. The man began to laugh and said that the Lord was right. They continued to say that they had not seen anyone like this within the walls of the academy. This guy really was funny. Coy was thrown an envelope at his feet. The bishop asked, didn't the guy say that he would like to head the Chong'il department? The old man told him to go there. The guy looked at the invitation in bewilderment. All this time there were 3 choices. Coy thanked the Lord for his mercy and said that he would never forget it. Among the 3 options, there was a path to salvation, and it was the 3rd option that turned out to be it. The guy stood up and said he would go. The Lord and the head of the court laughed with all their might. Thanks to this situation, he was convinced that among these options there is a way to survive. Already standing in front of the door, the guy suddenly stopped. He turned around and decided that he would never forget those freaks. Actions are transferred to the Cheonil department. The guy was asked for his name. He introduced himself as Coy. The man then asked his age. 27 years. Then they asked about the experience. Coy said that he has been in the Flying Assassin Squad for 8 years. The man tensed at the moment. At the basic educational institution he held 12th place out of 1,000. Coy stood and looked at him as if he had not heard something fantastic. The inspector raised his head and just said, "Wow." He said that he never thought that he would see a person of high rank in their squalid place. Then the man turned his attention to the guy's hand. There was something wrong with her. He immediately asked what was wrong with his hand. The guy said it was an accident. The man stood up from the table and said that one way or another it did not concern him. He asked the guy to follow him. The man headed somewhere further. Coy looked at him doubtfully, but still decided to follow him. They went down a long staircase. When they arrived, the man said that Coy would work here from now on. He must keep an eye on the books here. The guy couldn't describe his words. In front of Coy, a huge number of books could be seen. The man said that there must be proper order here, and if anything gets hurt, the guy will have to take full responsibility. He then turned around and asked why Coy was silent and not answering. "Don't want to do it?" The guy came out of his thoughts and said what he wanted. The teacher moved on. He said that the most important work is here. Size and type. Coy stopped listening to the man again. He was thinking about what the Supreme Court Lord and the Holy Deity Court leader might not know, but all these secret data. Mainly under the control of librarians and a government agency whose intentions are unclear. One way or another, there simply cannot be a book about higher martial arts. But still, he simply doesn't need them. Gu Zhong. If only there was a book on how to kill him. Then Coy noticed something strange. The man had only one life left. Even if he does wrong in this life, the next life may be different. The guy was interested in how a man was able to greatly succeed in martial arts. Coy called the secretary, and he turned around in bewilderment. The guy seemed speechless looking into his eyes. He wondered if he could defeat him. Will he be able to fight even though he can't use his right arm? And so the secretary turns around. Coy attacked him with a knife and stuck it in his stomach. The man looked at this in bewilderment and said that Coy is an ungrateful freak. Has it really gone completely crazy? He kicked the guy away. Coy realized that he had not stuck the knife deep enough. If he just has one life, then he is approximately the same as Chick-san. The secretary also took out a knife. He said that the guy is a bastard and why is he doing this? Coy ignored everything and immediately rushed towards the man. We needed to get this over with quickly. The guy waved his knife. The longer he waits, the less chance he has. The man dodged the blows over and over again. Then he found the right moment. The secretary attacked Coy. The guy couldn't do anything because of his right hand. He was knocked to the ground. Coy writhed in pain and then saw a man above him preparing an attack. The secretary hit the guy in the stomach with all his might. This caused Coy to start screaming. The man then swung the knife. He was going to kill his attacker. The guy froze in horror. The secretary dealt the final blow, and blood gushed out. The guy's hand now didn't move at all, and blood was spilling around him. Coy, as soon as he came to his senses, squeezed his eyes tightly. He understood that in his current position, he could not guarantee anything. The secretary, who turned to the guy, asked what he wanted. If he called, then let him speak. Coy smiled shyly. The guy said it was nothing. He just wanted to give him this to show how much he was looking forward to working with him. Coy handed over the coins. The guy said that it was already getting cold, and the salary would not be coming soon. It's not much, but he hopes it will prove his sincerity. The man frowned at Coy. The guy began to think that this approach most likely would not work. The secretary immediately took the money and said that it was a pleasure to do business with him. If difficulties arise, he can contact. The man asked the name again. The guy confirmed that his name is Coy. Then the secretary gave him advice. It's best not to stand out. If he wants to live longer, then he should listen. Coy looked at the man in bewilderment. The secretary, leaving, said that monsters were lurking very close. With tired eyes, Coy followed the man with his gaze. To leave this place and take revenge on them, Coy must live. He began to do his work and further thought about what he should do to defeat Du Hong. It was getting dark outside. The guy sorts through books for hours, but there are simply no fewer of them. Coy is already tired. Then the guy saw a strange book called XX Core. XX means movement and core means deep. But what does deep mean? He opened it. The guy was very confused while reading the book. Closing it, he realized that it was really deep. Immediately after this, a window with a message appeared in front of the guy. They asked him what type of martial arts he would like to master. The guy looked at him in bewilderment. This proposal came out of nowhere. He didn't know what to do. This time passed, it just didn't stop. Coy picked up the book. 3 main skills. A choice appeared before him. Only one martial art of all was discovered. White glow martial art. Then the guy realized which martial arts were closed. Martial art of unification. It is owned by the Lord of the Supreme Court and is recognized by the Academy as the highest martial art. The fire hand martial art is also quite famous, having been mastered by former Deputy Director Kal Yom-gi when he was still an assistant. Coy looked up in bewilderment. Finally he found a book that could do at least something. But why were all the arts closed? He could only choose one white glow martial art. After trying to choose another one, he was told that due to injury he would not be able to study this art. Coy decided that the white glow martial art should not be worse, because it is among 2 fairly famous martial arts. The guy chose an accessible martial art. He could learn all the techniques, so he decided there was simply no reason to hold back. The guy first decided to master the sword. Since Coy chose swordsmanship, which involves using a sword, a demonstration will be held. Something began to appear in front of the guy, and he looked at it in bewilderment. The guy tensed up a little. A shadow appeared in front of him. Immediately she began to move. Coy noticed that the figure that suddenly appeared was moving purposefully. From graceful posture to maneuvers. Thanks to the white steam emanating from his mouth, he could see his breathing technique. The guy was confused. He could even see the position of the sword. This shadow showed every martial art move with a white glow. Coy watched the shadow in admiration. Then a new window appeared in front of the guy. It talked about the special skills of the white glow martial art. Coy looked at this window in surprise. Sword art? Although he did not understand the symbols that were indicated there, the guy was sure of something. Coy stood up and started walking. The guy straightened his hand with the sword. This was an opportunity. Try everything again. The guy put the sword to his chest. He doesn't know yet why this is happening to him, but he will take advantage of everything he can. For the sake of revenge. Coy began to copy the actions of the shadow. In order to survive, the guy was ready to do anything. If he masters the white glow martial art, he will be able to defeat the department secretary Chionael. The guy continued to repeat the movements of the shadow. While the shadow continued to show movements, Coy was already exhausted. Day passed. It was sunny at the Chionael department. The action moves to the Chionael library. At this time the mouse was eating crumbs. Then something confused her and she stared at it. Coy hit the wall with his sword, which was glowing. The guy was able to master the art of white glow. He was very happy. There was a lot of power in just one movement. The guy understood that he shouldn't stop there. Over the next month, the guy studied the remaining techniques. In a moment he stood up to concentrate. Opening his eyes, he only said, once. His eyes opened wide, he was ready for a complex movement. The guy dealt many blows in a short period of time. From his blows, luminous spheres froze in the air. Then he launched these spheres into the distance. By studying the art of swordsmanship, it became easier for him to practice close combat and kick techniques. But whatever he did, he couldn't figure out how to use that sword strike. He read the information. Coy, although he understood what to do with his left hand, he could not understand in which direction he should develop. It would be great to use this technique. Then he smiled. Thanks to a bizarre fate, he received something he never had. Perhaps now the guy will be able to kill the department secretary. Coy began to laugh ominously, but noticed the chaos everywhere. The guy decided that it would be better to clean up just in case. This activity was not the best. It was very boring, and what's more, there was no end in sight. Someone was standing near the door. At this time, the guy was thinking about reading a book of basic skills. She can help him with the book, The 3 Essential Masteries. That silhouette began to move around the library. Breaking the silence, he was surprised that someone was there. Coy turned around in bewilderment and stared at the stranger. The guy didn't take his eyes off him, he couldn't believe it. At this time the man asked what happened. Maybe he has something on his face? Coy remembered the words of his secretary who advised him not to stand out if he wanted to live. The guy realized that Du Hong was right. The monster appeared before him. The man had 10 lives. Coy began to worship him, saying that there was nothing wrong with his face. The man said there was no such need for politeness. The guy asked what he could call him. A perplexed Coy said that he could address him that way. Wu Hyuk Bai, the one who guards Sima Gue, there were 4 lives, and this stranger has 10. Of course, this man is incredibly strong. He called Coy. The man asked what he was doing in the library, to which the guy said that he had been assigned to clean the shelves. The man sighed. So the guy is just cleaning up here. He said that was great, but also asked me to ask something. Coy said that he can ask anything. There is one book here, and it is very valuable to him. He asked if Coy had seen a book called The 3 Essential Masteries. The guy heard these words and fell into a stupor. The guy looked in horror at this book that was in his hands. Then time froze around. He had a choice before him. And again the choice. Coy was horrified. He decided he needed to get his act together. If he makes a mistake, he will die on the spot. The guy didn't understand why he even found this book. But more importantly, what kind of choice is this? He can't tell a stranger that he learned martial arts from this book. Coy couldn't choose any of the options. The guy didn't understand what to do. It was as if he was trapped. There was still some time left. He had to choose something, because he had no other choice. Opening his eyes, he decided that at this rate he would have to choose the lesser evil. He made his choice. And then time began to pass again. The stranger smiled sweetly at the guy. Coy said that he had never seen this book before. The man asked upset, didn't he see it? Coy's whole life flashed before his eyes. The stranger walked past the guy and began looking for the book. He didn't remember where he left it. Coy breathed a sigh of relief. Did it really work? But just in case, he decided to play it safe. Coy said that he would help him with his search. The man was delighted by these words. He couldn't remember where he put it, so he'll need help. Coy's heart was beating very fast. Then the stranger went further to look for the book. Coy breathed a sigh of relief. The man then clapped his hands. He remembered something. He remembered where this book could be. Coy tensed. In a trembling voice, he asked where she could be. The man stood and did not move. All that was visible was his face, which changed to gloom. The man turned and said that the book was in Coy's hands. The guy clutched this book tightly and began to tremble. Was he really caught? The man walked in his direction, never ceasing to look into his soul. Coy looked at him in horror and trembled. He didn't understand where he had gone wrong. He looked at the stranger and thought what would happen to him now. Unfortunately, the guy simply won't be able to escape from this monster. He should continue to pretend that he doesn't understand what he's talking about. The guy clutched the book tightly and began to think about what to say. In a harsh and uncertain voice, Coy began to try to explain. The man, approaching him, only squeaked. From this situation the guy just started laughing with all his might. Coy stood in disbelief. The stranger, wiping away tears, said that he was just joking. Coy stared at him in confusion. Then the man remembered that the guy said he was new. He introduced himself as Pu Yil-ki. Smiling, the man said that he was pleased to meet you. Then he decided to continue looking for books and left the guy. Coy continued to look at him in bewilderment. He laughed so hard that it sounded completely insincere. He didn't know if he was being honest or not. Who is this mysterious Pu Yil-ki? After some time had passed, Pu Yil-ki, who had previously only been peacefully leafing through books, spoke. The man asked if the guy came here thanks to the recommendation of the Lord of the Supreme Court. Coy approached him and said that it was so. This was unexpected for Pu Yil-ki. He said Mantis is not the kind of person to ask anyone for help. Coy laughed awkwardly and said that he treats him well. Then the man noticed that the ruler apparently treats him so well that he decided to make the guy's hand, which is extremely important in Murim, useless. Coy looked at the man in bewilderment. Does Pu Yil-ki really know about him? The man apologized and said that he had no intention of finding out about you, but he was just wondering who had been appointed as the new clerk. At least he wasn't aiming for the neck. It is better to crawl in the mud of the real world than to go to the other. Pu Yil-ki then said that in the case of Coy, it is better to give up and not try to master martial arts at the academy. The guy understood that he was getting on his nerves. He didn't know who this man was. He called Sima Gui an old fool, so he must definitely be someone important. Pu Yil-ki asked if he remembered. Coy asked in bewilderment. Who from the younger generation can call the Lord of the Supreme Court an old fool? That's what he's talking about. Coy tensed a little at those words. Does he read his mind? The guy said that he didn't dare to guess. Then Pu Yil-ki said that there is nothing wrong with this, because it is natural to assume this. So he wanted to know about the martial art of white glow. The whole world seemed to freeze. Coy realized that he did know. Pu Yilqi asked what the guy could already learn. The guy just looked at the man in bewilderment and trembling. What the hell? Is he testing Coy? The guy said he didn't understand what he was talking about. Pu Yilqi then sighed and began to walk. Passing by Coy, he asked if he didn't know anything. The guy said that it was true, he couldn't even move his right hand. With such a useless body, can he even try to master any martial art? Pu Yilqi started laughing and put his hand on the guy's shoulder. He said he understands, but he doesn't have to be so serious. But if he told him a lie, then Coy is deceiving him. Pu Yilqi stared at him. After that, the guy let Coy go. The sweat that was dripping down the guy fell to the ground from stress. Pu Yilqi told him to keep working. He walked towards the exit, and Coy followed him with his eyes. The guy breathed a sigh of relief. He thought his heart would jump out. Coy then noticed that the man was not leaving. What's happened? After these thoughts, a replica selection window appeared in front of him. The guy looked in horror at the choice provided. The fourth disciple of the heavenly demon? Coy only knew about him through rumors. He is ranked 30th in the Demon Academy. The best among martial artists. The man that stood in front of him was a real monster in person. Coy looked at him in horror, when suddenly the timer went off. The guy looked at the lines again. He knew that he couldn't choose the second option. If he said that he had mastered the martial art, he would answer that Coy had deceived him. The third option was something that was not worth thinking about. Too arrogant. The guy decided to ask if the fourth disciple of the heavenly demon was Pu Yilqi. The scenario continued. After these words, the man turned to him with a malicious smile and said that it was not bad. The guy didn't understand what he meant. Pu Yilqi continued to speak. He didn't know how he knew everything, but that didn't change anything. After all, he is just a man who lost his place in a power struggle. Coy fell to his knees and began to apologize for his insolence. He didn't dare to be disrespectful. Fortunately for him, the answer was correct. But if the point is that it was impossible to reveal the identity of the Earth Demon, then everything is just worse than ever. The guy looked at Pu Yilqi. The man said it just didn't matter to him. He told the guy to mind his own business, and he turned around and walked away. Now Coy breathed a sigh of relief. The man gradually began to move away from the guy. But then time stopped again. The guy's eyes opened wide. He just didn't understand why. Why did the replica selection menu appear again? He has already chosen, and now he needs to do it again? Coy clenched his teeth tightly. He made his choice. The scenario continued. To be honest, Coy actually mastered the white glow martial art thanks to the book that Pu Yilqi was looking for. The man froze at these words. He concluded through gritted teeth. Coy lied to him. The guy turned around and ran straight towards Coy. Taking out his sword, Pu Yilqi asked if the guy wanted to die. At this time, Coy became very tense. Suddenly time froze again. The last option remained. The fourth heavenly demon disciple froze in midair. He did what he had to do without a drop of regret on his face. His sword stopped a few centimeters from Coy's face. He had to choose the remaining line. The guy was given 500 seconds to make his choice. The guy watched the man in horror. He brought fear to the depths of the bones with just his gaze. Coy then looked at the selection menu. Although it couldn't be called a choice, he was simply forced to choose the remaining line. Worst option. Coy didn't understand why this timer was different from the previous ones. It's a 3-digit number. The guy raised his head again and froze. It is as if he is given time to understand the meaning of the question. But then what should be the solution? If, of course, there is a way out of this situation. But there was one obstacle. And that's the question. Has to be the worst. Although it may be the best option for a guy. Coy understood that all other situations had been resolved, so this issue must be a suitable solution for him. I should think. The aggressive heavenly demon disciple is now standing right in front of him. He must convince him. Time passed, and Coy was still thinking about what to do. Then it seemed to dawn on him. Judging by the earth demon's words, he is not very sympathetic to the Lord of the Supreme Court. In his words there is noticeable indifference to gaining power. Is this true? Contrary to the question, this means that he is in the same situation as him. He craves power more than anyone else, and the guy understands this. Coy clenched his hand tightly. Now he can become his strength. Then the guy remembered the hated Gu Myung, a person holding a position in the Demon Academy. Did he communicate with a member of another faction? The guy remembered the bishop's gaze, which looked literally into the soul. Freezing, Coy realized everything. He knew what to say, but he could only hope that it would work. He made his choice. Yilki suddenly braked at these words. He stopped his sword and just wondered. What did this kid just say? Coy looked at him and gathered his strength. The guy then said that the man was an earth demon who could not surpass the other heavenly demon disciples. When the demon made his decision, the other students. They have already begun their search for allies. It must have been difficult for him, no matter how hard he tried. Putting his sword to Coy's neck, Yilki asked not to change the topic. He asked what the guy wanted to say. And then Coy realized that the man was listening to him. Even though he could easily kill him, he should be interested in listening to him. Coy asked the earth demon to choose the Lord of the Supreme Court. Yilki looked at him in bewilderment. The guy also noticed that the earth demon's gaze had changed. He fell to his knees and began to say that the Supreme Court was the heart of the Red Demon Chamber. Capturing the Supreme Court would turn out to be a great benefit for him. Yilki will be able to occupy the Red Demon's chamber. He asked if that's why he found it. The man couldn't stop looking at Coy. Then he just put away his sword. The guy looked up with a little fear. He continued to say that the earth demon did not come here to find the book on the 3 basic masteries. If he had found her, Yilki would have left long ago. The man, without interrupting Coy, just listened. He said that he thought about the reason for the appearance of the heavenly demon disciple here. What could prompt him to start a conversation with him? With a person who stands nowhere lower. After some thought, the guy realized something. Yilki came here to ask Coy. Although, rather, to find someone who can tell him about the weakness of the Lord of the Supreme Court. Yilki asked why the guy decided so. He replied that the Lord of the Supreme Court ordered the flying faction to conduct search and reconnaissance. Was it a coincidence that he was the only one expelled from the faction? The guy thought that if he acted the same way as last time, then everyone in the faction would simply die. Surely the earth demon knows about this rumor. He turned to Yilki and said that he believed that he. The guy continued to think that if this happened, then the earth demon would have no reason to come here. He had no reason to pay attention to Coy. The guy said that he believes that he considers him an unusual person. He is sure that he has another goal. Yilki then began to laugh very loudly. Coy tensed a little. The man said the guy was right. He's funny. And he now understood why old man Sima Gue didn't like him. Well, one way or another, it doesn't matter. The man asked the guy what he could tell about the ruler's weakness. Coy said that's true. Pu Yilqi asked what this weakness was. The guy looked away in bewilderment. The man looked at him, and only grinning, asked that he really couldn't think of anything. Apparently he only knows how to talk. Coy began to say that if he told the earth demon what he wanted to know, what will he get in return? The guy stared at Pu Yilqi. The man froze at this question. In bewilderment, he could only ask what the guy had just said. Coy understood that he was putting his life on the line with this question. Therefore, if he can get something as a replacement, he wants it. The man asked if the guy really thought his life was worthless. Coy said that he knows that no. But if his information can save Pu Yilqi's time and effort, isn't this enough? The man asked again. Time and effort? Coy said that's true. The heavenly demon disciple turned away from him and looked into the distance. He then looked back at Coy without emotion. Okay. That's all the man said. If Coy really has such information, then he promises to pay back in full. He hid his sword. Coy breathed a sigh of relief and began to speak. The weakness of the Lord of the Supreme Court is the Huangshan elder, Gu Chong Myung. The man was skeptical about this information. He asked what evidence he had. The guy said that the Lord of the Supreme Court does not leave evidence. The man said that it was just a guess. Coy said that it may be a mystery, but she may become important to the earth demon. The man looked at the guy in bewilderment. He said that there are many powerful people around Pu Yilqi. If you narrow your search down to one person, doesn't he have enough power to create evidence for his guess? The man looked at him in bewilderment. The guy said that many of the people can reveal the truth. At least this is quite possible. Pu Yilqi smiled. He agreed with him. Coy was perplexed. He agreed? The man started walking towards the guy and asked his name again. Pu Yilqi knelt down while Coy said his name. The earth demon asked him to clarify something. Before he does that, Coy looked at the man in anticipation. He said that there is one task that the guy must complete for him. The guy asked what task this was. He only said one name. Juk Myung. The guy had to kill this man. The man saw some doubt in his gaze. He asked if he wouldn't do it, but Coy said that wasn't the point. Pu Yilqi said that in order to trust, he first needs to test it. The heavenly demon disciple said that Coy could easily be on the side of the Supreme Court Lord. He asked again if Coy could do it. The boy squeezed his hand tightly. He knew it wasn't a matter of whether he could. He just has to. Coy said he could. He introduced himself as the commander of the flying faction squad. Pu Yilqi looked at the guy with happiness in his eyes. At that time he was shouting that he would kill Juk Myung. Night fell in the city. All actions also took place in the department. At this time, Coy, who had prepared for the task, was walking down the corridor. Pu Yilqi had previously told him that he would be waiting for him at the office on the 12th floor. He told the guy to kill Juk Myung and then find him. Coy confidently looked into the man's eyes. The earth demon probably thinks he can't kill Juk Myung. Although everyone is equal in the eyes of the heavenly demon disciple. But Coy was on a completely different level. The guy decided to check his statistics. He understood that the art of white glow would help him survive, despite such a disadvantageous situation. The guy walked along the dark streets. When does a person relax? When does he eat? When does he sleep? When does he go on dates? Coy was interested in these questions. Then the guy approached the wooden structure. The most important question was when a person is in the toilet. The guy kept thinking about it. The guy beat him when he was bored, when everything became routine, and even when he felt bad. How to kill Juk Myung? This question was spinning in Coy's head. The guy decided that he was sitting in the toilet for a long time, so he would have to hide where he lets his guard down. He decided that he needed to climb into the cesspool and attack from there. Although it will be terribly disgusting, you only need to do it once. The guy covered his nose with a scarf. He will endure. If Coy survives, then no matter what, he will live and rise above everyone. Then the guy heard footsteps. This was Juk Myung. On time as always. As he expected, at such a time he goes to the toilet. The guy jumped into the cesspool. Surprisingly, it was clean there. Apparently it was just recently cleaned. Coy then looked up. Juk Myung was approaching the toilet. Then he pulled down his pants. He was preparing to do his dirty deed. Coy took out his sword. He only needed to do this once. The man had already sat down at this time. The guy realized that he needed to act right now and he rushed with a knife towards Juk Myung. Unexpectedly for the guy, his attack was prevented. He jumped back with hostility. Taking a deep breath, he decided he needed to move on. The guy began to carry out the movement to attack. Now the guy has definitely decided. Now is the time to attack. He has already rushed his sword there. But suddenly he stopped. The system message said that the guy had equipped sword art. Coy had the perfect opportunity. He has found the enemy's weak point, so there is a chance to cause great damage. His body began to move on its own. Then the guy swung his sword. At this time, Juk Myung felt a strange glow from below. The dagger rushed towards him. There was silence around. The toilet stood motionless. When suddenly a blue beam that rushed into the sky blew it apart. Coy himself did not understand what had just happened. Juk Myung started coughing up blood. The transformation strike dealt 1404 damage. Coy stood over the defeated guy. He looked at his sword. Sword energy. He literally radiated strength. Juk Myung's lifeless body lay motionless. He had just 1404 health units. The action moves to the river where Coy came. The guy was washing himself away from everything that he had experienced during the night. He looked at his reflection. He already had 3 coins. The guy jumped onto the grass. He grabbed his head and started laughing madly. Without thinking twice, he opened his statistics. He was interested in the art of the sword. How was he able to use it? When he used sword energy, it did nothing to reduce his stamina. If he can use such incredible power without any restrictions, he can become stronger. Coy suddenly raised and squeezed his hand. Then his face scrunched up in pain. His right hand remained useless in this life. But more than that, if word gets out that Juk Myung was killed, the guy will be in even more danger. With such a right hand, it will be difficult for him to become stronger in this life. But then, the guy decided to lay the foundation for his next life. He wondered if he should tell the Earth Demon everything. You need to think things through carefully. He still can't trust him. Coy just didn't understand his motives. Then the guy took his things and went on his way. When the guy arrived, he introduced himself as a clerk at the Cheonil department. Coy greeted the Lord of the Supreme Court. Mantis didn't understand what was going on. He asked if everything was okay with his head. He asked how dare he appear in his office. What was he thinking? And besides, the man noticed that Coy stinks. The guy said he had no choice. The Lord asked again. Coy asked how else could he get rid of the Black Moon Squad captain, Juk Myung, on his own? The old man looked at the boy with a grim expression. He thought about it and began to walk towards him, radiating energy. He wondered how he managed to kill him. But before that, the guy suddenly fell into horror. It was becoming harder for him to breathe. This feeling was like demonic flames. The bishop sat down near Coy and asked who he had seen. The guy wanted to ask what he meant. The old man took him by the hair. He started shouting that the guy should not even think about rolling his eyes in front of him. If he says something without thinking. Coy's eyes opened wide. At this time, the old man looked at him with an incredibly creepy look. He said the guy would be finished. Coy asked, wouldn't it be more important that he was hiding something from the Lord? Mantis was at a loss. The old man started screaming again, saying that he had gone crazy after he ended up in the department. The guy started screaming. He wanted to know the truth. He asked for an honest answer to his question. Doesn't Mantis want him dead? If he was so interested, he will tell you. He saw the demon of the earth. It was he who sent him here. The old man thought about it. The guy thought that of course it was a lie, but it didn't matter if he got caught. There is something more important that he must know. He let go of the guy's head. If this is true and if Coy is helping him, then the Lord understands why he killed Juk Myung. The man asked what the earth demon wanted to know. The guy said that he asked where and when Mantis met with the Huangshan elder, Gu Chong Myung. The man turned around and walked forward. Communication with a member of another faction is regarded as betrayal, regardless of the reason. The man asked if the demon really wanted to know this. Coy said that it is. The old man then asked if the earth demon had asked anything else. The guy said that he was still interested in where and when they would meet again. Was it really not effective enough? The guy began to speak behind the Lord that the demon of the earth had been thinking about this issue for a long time. You need to be honest. Mantis was silent for a long time. Then he broke the silence by saying only the location. Yellow Mountain. They agreed to meet on the Yellow Mountain early next month. Coy was extremely happy. The Lord fell for his trick. Then the guy saw something on the floor. He looked, but there was literally nothing there. Coy touched it and received the secret card of the Lord of the Supreme Court. He was surprised. Map? There was an offer to watch it and of course the guy agreed. This map marked the path to the Yellow Mountain. There were also places that the bishop visited most often. Coy was surprised that this card could do this. Then the guy opened the toolkit. There he had medicinal herbs, a nutrition bar, and a secret map. He didn't understand what it was. At that moment the ruler called him. The guy tensed and looked up. The man asked and the earth demon taught him martial arts. Coy, not expecting such a question, said that a couple of days ago. Then the man asked when they met. The guy said that when he arrived at Cheonail's department, they met. The bishop was surprised. He sent the guy there not long ago, but during this time the demon managed to trust, train and order Coy to kill Juk Myung. Moreover, he ordered information to be obtained from him, so it was all like that? The old man moved towards the guy. He just said hesitantly, yes. Mantis pierced the guy right through. Coy did not expect such an outcome of events. The old man said that, apparently, the guy takes him for an idiot, and he doesn't like it. If you have watched up to this point, then I am very grateful to you, because this is where the video ends. If it's not difficult for you, then like this video and subscribe to my channel. And if you want to continue this story, then write in the comments. Thank you all, I love you all.